Can you say hi to say hi to Lois Lane? What an idiot. Say hi to Dana Delany.
Thank you, Gary.
I like that you called me Lois.
Hello, Dana. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. Let's jump right in. You were known for China Beach, Desperate Housewives. You were also played Josephine Marcus in my favorite movie ever, Tombstone. But we're going to talk about Superman, the 25-year anniversary, and the Blu-ray box set. I kind of want to know how you got the role of Lois, but we need to rewind the clock a little bit and talk about The Mask of the Phantasm, right? You're Andrea Beaumont.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And you were named after Andrea Romano, I believe, the infamous voice director.
Yes, it was very, very important to say it correctly, Andrea, not Andrea.
Right. So can I ask how you got the role of Andrea Beaumont, which I got to believe led to Lois Lane?
Well, what happened was Arlene Sorkin, who is a very good friend of mine, who played the role of Harley Quinn. I think it was written for her, actually, by Paul Dini. So she suggested me to Paul Dini, and they just offered me the job, which was kind of amazing because I'd never done animation before. So that was a whole new world for me, but I kind of lucked out because it was, the same people. It was Paul Dini and Alan Burnett and Tim.
Bruce Timm?
Tim Sim. Was it Tim? Bruce Timm.
Bruce Timm.
That's Tim Sims is important. Bruce Timm. Yes, and Andrea. And the thing that struck me was they wanted it to be like a real movie. They wanted it to be very real. They didn't want any kind of, comic book voice acting. They wanted it to be very human, very real. So it was a great kind of entry into that world. And then when they decided to do Superman, the animated series, I auditioned for it. I didn't just get the part. I had to audition for it. And when I read the script, it was so clear to me that this was just a great show because the writing was so snappy and so classic. And it reminded me of His Girl Friday, the Rosalind Russell part in it. And that's kind of how I modeled my character for the audition. But I remember, kind of snappy, fast-talking, broad. And when I went to do the audition, it was just exciting to be able to say Dana Delany auditioning for the role of Lois Lane because I grew up a Lois Lane person. She's part of my DNA. And then I got to say those great lines in the audition about nice S, it's this Nietzschean idea. And I'd forgotten that in the series, Lois is the one that named him Superman. She comes up with that name, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So this is at the beginning, I would say, of the renaissance of big name live action actors coming into voice acting. Was it? And you mentioned that was the first time you had done it. Was it an easy transition for you to go into the booth and just act normally, as if you were on screen?
Yeah, it was actually really exciting because, we never got to do radio theater, which, actors before my time got to do that. And that was always part of being part of the studio system is you would actually often take movies that you'd already made and go and do a radio version of that for people to hear. So it was so common for actors earlier than my time. So it felt like a radio play. I imagined that I was doing Mercury Theater with Orson Welles, and all the actors were there in a room as they could be. And then you have your mic and you're sitting on a stool, except for Mark Hamill, who always insists on standing up. And, you're facing them. The only odd thing was not being able to look the actor in the eye. That was, the biggest challenge in the beginning because you have to face the microphone. But once I got used to that, it was fun because in a weird way it frees you to just use your imagination. And I also love the fact that you didn't have to get dressed up or put makeup on. You could just go to the studio, And it was fun. And you got to meet all of these amazing actors. I mean, I would walk in and it was my idol, childhood idols were there in the room. I got to meet Malcolm McDowell and Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who I'd grown up watching on FBI, or Shelley Fabre, who, I'd grown up watching on TV, or Ed Asner, and they were all so great, and everybody was there they were all ready to play, and they all had a great sense of humor, so it was a ball.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you based it on the smart talking, snappy girl. Did you have any influence of previous Lois Lane voice actors like Joan Alexander or Sharon Farren?
No, I had, as a kid, grown up watching the TV series in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
So I started watching that when I was like 4 years old, and I remember it vividly. And I'd come in from nursery school and watch it. And so my image of Lois Lane was Phyllis Baxter, and then it was Noelle Neal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my image. And then also every Sunday I would go to church, and my reward was to go to the drugstore and get a comic book for 10 cents. So back then, Lois had her own comic book, so I would always buy the Lois Lane comic book. So I had my own vision of Lois Lane from an early age.
Well, now your name is synonymous with the character, much like Phyllis Coates, Noelle Neal, and Margot Kidder, right?
Yeah.
Is that manifest destiny? You've been dreaming about it all your life, a lot of your life?
I think so. Andrea Romano remarked, I'd forgotten that, but my first day of shooting Lois Lane, evidently I started crying, which I do now remember because she was an idol for me. She was somebody that I looked up to and certainly have modeled a lot of my life over. I mean, I grew up being, raised to be a career girl, and that's what Lois is.
Do you ever, since your portrayal of Lois Lane, there's been a lot of other actresses that have portrayed her. Do you ever get to hang out with other Lois Lanes? Do you have a special club? Do you have maybe pink satin jackets?
Well, I know Terry Hatcher, so, I've gotten to hang out with her. She did her version, and she was great. And I did get to meet Noelle Neal, and that was great. And you're right, I was saying Phyllis Baxter, but it's Phyllis Coates, you're right. But Phyllis Baxter was part of Superman, too, wasn't she? I don't know that. I think she was in the movies. She was in something.
I think so. That sounds right.
Looking her up right now. She was Moth Cat. Yeah, she was in an early version. Maybe it was radio. I think she was in the radio version. Maybe that's it. I know she was Lois, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you feel when...
I do have a picture.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do have a picture. I have a picture of me and Noelle Neal together that's on my desk.
Wow.
That means a lot to me.
Oh, yeah, she was in Superman in the train when young Clark was running.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
But also, I was friends with Chris Reeve, too. And I remember when he got that job, when he got the Superman job, and that was a big thing for him.
Wow. You knew him that long. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So as a big fan, she's intertwined in your life so much. What's it like when younger fans of Lois come up to you and tell you how much Lois Lane means to them?
I think it's great. I mean, I feel like every generation has, the Lois of their time, and it's right that Superman keeps evolving for the time that they're in. I think what lasts about our show, our series, the animated series, is that Bruce Timm was so smart in creating a look and a feel that was timeless. So it lasts, and it's still relevant today. It had a bit of a retro classic feel, but it was also present day and modern. And I feel like the music is classic, the look is classic, the dialogue is classic. I watched some of it last night, and it really holds up. I mean, I was laughing out loud. So I'm happy that whatever we did at that period, it still works today.
Mm-hmm. You recently played Edith Roosevelt on HBO Max's The American Guest. So for a little over 25 years,
Mm-hmm.
a quarter of a century, you've been playing strong, influential women throughout history. Is there any comparison between Lois Lane and Edith Roosevelt?
No, they're very different. I mean, they're both strong women, but back in Edith's day, if you didn't find a husband and you didn't have any money, it was not a good life for you. You were basically a spinster living in a one-room cold flat,
Mm-hmm.
But they had the similarity is that TR and Edith had a great love story that I think a lot of people don't know about. So I hope that people learn more about that, because even though she was a quiet force in his life, she was definitely a force that he collaborated with her on everything. He ran all of his political ideas by her. She was the politically savvy one. And I hope that people learn more about them, because it's a great story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me throw one more question at you as I show myself out the door here. When I was a little kid, I used to have to get up earlier than my brother to beat him to the couch to get the good spot in front of the TV so I could watch my Saturday morning cartoons. But I'd have to get up even earlier than that to beat my parents into the kitchen so I could pour myself a big bowl of sugary goodness to start the day. So, Dana Delany, I'd like to know, what is your favorite bowl of Saturday morning cereal, and what was your favorite cartoon to watch?
I wasn't a cereal person. I never liked cereal. Being from New England, my favorite breakfast was raspberry applesauce and cream. That was my favorite breakfast. Or cherry pie. Sometimes we got to have cherry pie with cream cheese. That was another Yankee delight. And cartoons, definitely watch Bugs Bunny. Lot of Bugs Bunny. And the Flintstones, but that was on at night, wasn't it? In the morning, it was Warner Brothers, Bugs Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Thanks so much for your time. I'm absolutely delighted to talk to you today, Dana. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Thanks.